throughout the series, we've been kind of checking in on Big Brother. I obviously am a super fan. We started off with my way too early power rankings, which are very random in hindsight. Again, I don't think anyone's power rankings have stayed true, but that's also testament to kind of what a roller coaster ride this series and the reboot has been. But also, you may have seen, follow me, or if you follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, I'm tweeting along every night, loving it. And joining me today to discuss it as we kind of head into the final week. It's already there, guys. Shockingly short. Is another super fan who's been tweeting along as it goes on. We've been having conversations behind the scenes. He probably should be doing better because he does very important work in the real world, but like he's still managing to hold that down and follow Big Brother religiously. It is the one, the only Irish Examiner's David Kent joining us to discuss. And Dave, there's only one place we can really start here because we're recording this on Sunday afternoon. So again, anything that happens on Sunday night show, we don't know by the time this is released. But obviously we're coming off a huge double eviction on Friday, a massive shocker. We saw Chanel go, which was kind of expected, but then we saw someone who the crowd was chanting, Trish will win, Trish will win, and then was announced as being evicted to the shock of the nation. That story has since kind of developed and gone onwards with some, social media stuff from her past, and unfortunately quite recent past too, being unearthed, that has kind of had Trish go on the roller coaster ride of public opinion over the past 24 hours alone. Today, the latest is she's released a statement saying, apologizing for a lot of reviews and so on. Kento, kind of your thoughts on the eviction, the twist? I think we were getting ready to have a certain type of conversation, and now that conversation is out the window. So Trish and Chanel are the latest gone. What are your thoughts on just the past couple of days in Big Brother?
I did think that it was going to be like there's obviously this massive divide that people have jumped into reading into it on social media. They kind of fell for, and then the big wigs or whatever. It's the split, obviously, of whatever it was: Jenkins, Chanel, Tom, Olivia. They're the four. And it's like I never ever thought it was going to be two of them. So I thought that one of Jenkins and Chanel was definitely going to stay because we already kind of got the double kind of, if you want to air quote, villain eviction with Dylan and Paul going, where it was like, okay, there, like that was a message. So I never thought, and I'm actually kind of glad that we didn't get. Not that we like, maybe not glad is the wrong word, but I didn't want the final week just to be the happy clappy crew because you always need the kind of the differing side of things. So if it's just all sunshine and roses, it would have been boring for me personally because I don't have a massive invested interest in a lot of that the kind of air quote good group. Chanel, I thought was always at risk because the edit of the last couple of days leading up to the eviction made her look horrific. Same could probably be said about Trish in terms of what they showed and what maybe they didn't show from particularly the live stream as well. I remember the night before, so the Thursday night episode, they showed the conversation with Jordan in the bedroom where it seemed like there was a bit of an argument, and then people pointed out, if you watch the stream of that instant, like the live stream from the day before, it's like, they were literally chatting to each other, happy as Larry 2 minutes later. But again, so I thought, Chanel wasn't like also I probably would have thought Jenkins would have gone ahead of Chanel, but look, that's neither here nor there. Trish, yeah, I mean, I said it to you that before all this stuff broke, that she was kind of on path to be kind of like a Nikki Graham situation where she came out of the house and her popularity was far above the actual winner, whoever that turned out to be. And then, look, you mentioned what's happened, and that can't even possibly ever happen now. And listen, the statement's well and good, but she's going to have to live with that. So yeah, like the eviction, I never expected it to be two from one side of it. So I don't think Chanel can have any complaints. I think when she watches it back, she'll be a bit disappointed in herself. Again, maybe not. Maybe it's just how we're edited. We only see 45 minutes out of a 24-hour day each time. So could just be the producers. She may have had brilliant moments. We'll never know. So yeah, there was a bit of shock, but again, I'm not too disappointed with how it went either.
Yeah, and look, I think Trish is the big headline because I don't think many people were surprised after the last week with Chanel. I was certainly coming on here, and literally I was watching it with my friend. I didn't get to watch it live on Friday night, so me and my friend had a little impromptu makeshift eviction night last night. And literally as it was coming up and hearing the crowd chants, I was saying Trish has got this in the bag. It's a really tough one, particularly for Trish. Obviously tough to expect it. I think, you know, the shock, and it's still probably fresher for me than yourself. Having only just seen it myself last night, but the shock of it has kind of dissipated quite a lot, and now kind of seeing what's come out afterwards, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, it's probably best that this happened and kind of didn't happen like at the end and so on. It feels a bit of an icky situation, to be honest, on all sides. Obviously, look, the tweets speak for themselves. The fact that there's stuff from this year in them as well, just kind of, you know, she can't turn around. Originally, I thought it was just stuff from like 10, 12 years ago. And I do feel sorry for people because, again, people grow, people develop, people, you know, if any of us were held accountable for the things we said in our early 20s, you know, we'd all be cancelled. And I don't necessarily like that. And I don't like any side of this. Obviously, I don't like the tweets. I don't like the fact that people felt compelled to look up the tweets as well, because I think Trish was such a loud, outspoken character. And I think she spoke I don't disagree with anything that she said in the house. And I like the character that was presented to us on the show and that she showed herself to be in the house. Obviously, there's complexities and there's different areas that she may have concealed or she may have grown out of, or whatever the case is, there are different complexities there. I think she touched the nerve for a lot of people, and I don't want that to kind of be lost in it. I feel icky just turned around and saying, oh, well, Chanel and Paul and Dylan were right and their behavior is okay, because it wasn't. Like, she was a victim of a lot of probably unconscious racial bias there. She called out kind of the use of the angry black woman stereotype constantly throughout the house. I think that was just there to be seen. I think that contributed to the unraveling of Chanel, who previously up to that point was quite a good housemate that I was like, I want her to make the final. I really like her. But then she made them feel feelings that, you know, they weren't comfortable with, and they started acting out as such. And I think also that contributed, because again, you have to consider that she was evicted and then this stuff broke. It didn't go the other way and led to her eviction. But I think like she touched the nerve on a lot of people in post-Brexit Britain, which, you know, isn't known for its necessarily for its progressive views. We know there is a very ugly underbelly in there that could have contributed to the voting. So I think all factors have to be taken into play. It's a very complex situation, and I think there's a story there. But again, we're still in the news cycle where things are breaking, so we can't come up with any massive sweeping conclusions about it. But I think this has probably worked out for the best. 24 hours ago, I was like, I had switched from wanting to see Yin Run win to wanting to see Trish win. Now I just don't know what's going on, and I'm not sure how I feel. I kind of need this conversation to kind of reset me, I think, a little bit. But great TV. Having said that, it is great TV. I do worry for Trish's mental well-being as well. She's after having her platform taken away. I hope, you know, again, regardless of how ugly her thoughts are, you know, I don't want the worst case scenario. ITV have had a horrible run of horrible stuff happening, and you know, they've had past reality TV contestants and even presenters take their own lives in the past, largely due to public backlash. So I don't like to see that, no matter what, or I don't think that is a fitting punishment to any crime. So again, I hope that she has the aftercare. I hope that the ugly nature of some of the stuff that's come out doesn't mean ITV run a mile from her and just leave her out there by herself, because that's a massive concern as well. So it's just an ugly situation from a complex character that ultimately made good TV. But I think we're in the right situation now where she's not in the final, she's not winning, and also this stuff isn't coming out while she's not there to be able to kind of defend her name as well and so on. So look, ultimately it was shocking. It was incredible TV, but I think we're in the right stage. Now, we're heading into the final week. We have 7 contestants left. I don't think they were the 7 anyone would have predicted at the start if we'd have done a pool or anything. Well, I'll list them off anyway. We've Jordan, Olivia, Henry, Jenkin, Tom, Yin Run, and Maddie. The question I have for you, and we will discuss kind of who we want to see and think will be in the final and win and all that stuff, but the question I want to ask first is, of those people, who should thank their lucky stars that they're making it into the final week? Who's kind of there by default more than by, you know, public will or any amazing showing on the TV? Because you always get a few of those in Big Brother who just kind of snuck under the radar. Who's that in this case?
I don't know if snuck under the radar is the right term for it because he has been front to center in a lot of situations, but it kind of has to be Tom for me.
Mm,
Um, at least with the likes of Jenkins, yeah, the first kind of couple of days where the whole world seemed to be against him, his suitcase and everything, and his clothes and his food or whatever. And when he was away from that group, and this applies to Olivia as well, when they're away from the kind of bitchy group, they actually have a bit of personality about them, and you can see why maybe they were chosen as a housemate. I can't think of any reason that the producers would have looked at Tom. I can't even remember what he said in his VT initially because he's just so bland.
yeah.
He doesn't have any characteristics. I can't even go positive or negative because it's just like, well, I haven't really seen him isolated so that I can just go, well, what is he actually about? What are you about? What's your view on anything yourself, as opposed to what the general group seems to be saying?
Mm.
Like I'm not certain as to what he would bring, and like if you're looking back on this season and you're going, right, who stood out the most and who deserved to be there, and it's like, right, okay, well, Yin Run has done this, and Jenkin has done this, and Henry and Maddie have done this, and Tom has done nothing really.
Yeah.
That's like not there's no massive task you can remember from him, bar being a sheep, and that wasn't even picked by him. There's no kind of moments that you can think, bar maybe stealing some food, but they all did that, so that was a group thing again. Um, Tom is fortunate. I could put forward, but it would have been harsh now. Maybe if you asked me this last week or 2 weeks ago, I would have said Henry as well. But he's come
Mm.
into it a bit for me. I said
Yeah.
this in our last chat that the only thing keeping Henry in was that he was friends with Yin Run when he was up for eviction.
Mm.
He's come a bit into his own now, although he's like he had a bad week last week with the podcast incidents and
Yeah.
some of the comments there where it's like, oh yeah, we kind of remember now that, listen, you're lovable and you're in a love triangle, but you did just say that Boris Johnson had a great response to COVID literally minutes after
The best
someone had said
COVID
to them,
response on the planet was the exact
yeah,
quote. Yeah,
after
which is
after
something.
to an NHS worker and someone who had admitted that their dad and stepmom had died from COVID in the
Yeah,
UK. So
not great.
judgment of situation, not great. But yeah, like Tom is very fortunate. Like Tom, Henry, the rest you could argue like have been pretty solid housemates, I think.
Yeah, I agree. One I'm going to put forward, and I'm not saying they're lucky to be there, but I would have liked to see. I feel that they have managed to evade judgment, which I feel that there's dimensions to this character that because they've skipped under the radar of being nominated, we've never got to see them truly pushed in a way which kind of told us who they are. In the same way, we're kind of learning the three dimensions of Trish now. Do you know what I mean? Maddie is someone that I'm going to put forward because Maddie, there's a case to answer that Maddie, you know, treated Jordan quite poorly. He was very he was very encouraging of that scenario. He played into it quite a lot. And I understand, look, you're alone in the house. Physical intimacy as well must be something which is almost becomes currency in there while you're so stranded from your family, your phone, all of the world cut off. So I can't sympathize with what led him to do it, but I think there are edges there to Maddie, and he's kind of got a soft ride here. I feel that he's kind of gotten to be put in a position where he says and does all the right things and puts himself as kind of top of the moral high ground here. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve it. He is someone that I've warmed up to more as each week has gone on. But I feel like there's something there in him that he's never been in a truly high pressure situation where he's been forced to reveal who he is. But there's also likable qualities there. Olivia, I feel, as well, as someone who, again, has kind of, whenever she's been up for eviction, there's always been someone that's just more hated by the public, where she's never even had a one-to-one eviction, where it's been like the crowd actually like you. But she does bring a lot of positive qualities. Look, ultimately what I look for is I want the final week of Big Brother to be interesting. We have a batch of interesting characters here. We're going to get good TV. I agree with what you say that I'm glad it's not just one side and they're playing happy family up to the finish line. We've had Big Brothers like that, and it's fucking boring, if I'm being honest, when it's that final week. So yeah, happy with the crew that we've got. As well, though, now we're kind of we're at the end where we can kind of get a full picture view on this season as a whole. 6 weeks, much shorter than the average Big Brother. ITV, I guess, kind of going with the strategy of leaving us wanting more. I want to get your thoughts on the show and the reboot under ITV. How have they handled it, and what are your overall kind of wins? Any kind of notes or anything that just didn't work for you?
Look, it was always going to be a different thing to what we've ever seen before because it's an entirely new channel picking it up. Like, is it as good as the Channel 4 one? Of course it is. And is it better than the Channel 5 one? Yeah, it probably is. Like the 6 week thing, I think is purely just as a tester because they also have to fit in the jungle as well. They don't want to leave it too close to Love Island either because you're just oversaturating the market. Then, like if you went from Love Island, then 2 weeks later Big Brother's on, then suddenly it's for 10 or 12 weeks, and then straight into the jungle, people just get fatigued, and you wouldn't get as many viewers. I was like, there are some issues definitely need to be fixed. One, I get that they're sponsored, and that's why we have Big Brother back. I get that they're sponsors, but some of them have just been taking over episodes, and it's just been like, right. So that entire thing was just a task.
The
or
Hunger
two
Games
tasks squeezed in. Yeah, the Hunger Games is a perfect example. The Vinted one with the you do to remember the fucking code on the floor and you get the party. It's like, all right, so this is again 45 minutes to an hour of what we see, and 3/4 of that 45 minutes was just a giant ad. And like that's not great. I don't like vote to evict. I think vote to save, or sorry, vote to save. Vote to evict is probably it would be my one. Just especially if you're going to be doing double evictions as well, because then you do see then that's like, okay, this votes get split between the stands of this side and the stands on the other side. It's like, okay, it might lead to these more kind of I don't want to say boring because they're not, but lower housemates just kind of coasting through, like you mentioned, Matty, like me with Thomas. Like, right, you haven't really done much and you're in the final week. So, bully for you. The hosts I am warming up to, but I just don't think it sits well when there's two of them. If there's one live show, and I get it, because listen, when you watch Leighton live and they're on their own, I think they're actually solid. So either pick one of them to host the main and then pick one of them to do Leighton live, or just maybe it's because it's their first year working together that it might just be that they could have unbelievable chemistry this time next year and we'd be fine. Some of the editing and some of you can tell that the producers are intervening. Did you see the one yesterday, the day before, where they had Jordan coming down the stairs and Jordan was also on the couch in the same shot? And it's like, there's a couple of incidents of that throughout the last few weeks where it's like, you can just see two people coming in and like one, suddenly they're walking through the garden and oh my God, they're actually in the kitchen. It's like, right. So what you kind of have to be aware now, it is a reality show and it's a modern reality show. So there are going to be interventions, but it's just not as much as it's more than what we would have seen back in the day where it's kind of naturally flow. Again, that could be a result of what the tasks are being. Is there too many tasks? Is there too many? Is there not enough happening? Is the casting not great? But we don't really know because we're not 100% certain on what we're seeing. There are some brilliant positives, but there are it was always going to be difficult. There are going to be teething problems with the first year.
Yeah.
But as it comes to return, and they'll be delighted with the viewership, by the way, because it is that you got that kind of the modern generation who never really watched it, and it's like, oh, we've heard so much about it, and it's back now. And you have like the kind of older generation, like myself and yourself, who were growing up with it, and it's like, yes, that is the perfect mask, the perfect balance, and they've got this huge viewership, so it's a huge success for them. I can see it coming. Like the celebrity one is going to be fun after Christmas as well, because you're going to get an entire new viewpoint and an entire new situation with that. And will it be like the old classic celebrity ones when we see a serving British MP pretend to be a cat on the floor?
No. I was only looking that clip up today. It's wild. What the hell? Or the classic David's Dead. We can't talk about anything without David's Dead. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It is TV gold. It is one of the most memorable clips in the history of television. So yeah, I totally agree. For me, I agree. I'd be very much of the same mind. This has been a runaway success for ITV. There were some concerns at the start where the ITV-ication of it was a bit of a concern. Like, for example, having musical interludes with cheesy pop music made it feel a bit like Love Island. And it's like, that's not what this is. Come on. I've kind of got used to it as time goes on. As well, but then there's some benefits to it, like, because they kind of learn lessons from Love Island, and having Marcus Bentley as the narrator be a bit cheeky, you know what I mean? Because it's like, Jordan is being a bit of a fool, or what is it? It's like Yinrun is playing air guitar. Absolutely epic moment, by the way. I love kind of the cheekiness of it as well, where they're not afraid to do that. There are bits as well where the tasks I've been generally a fan of, I've thought they've always managed to keep it interesting. It feels like like every night there's something going on. It feels well thought out. Some of the tasks towards later Big Brother just felt like they were just using their D-list material that they'd rejected from previous series because they'd ran out. But this feels really full. Every night there's something on. It's very exciting. It's high stakes. I agree with what you're saying about some of the sponsored ones, though. Even though the Hunger Games task ended up being really interesting, like the way that they spun it. 6-week runtime, I'm very okay with. It leaves me wanting more. I used to feel that the last week of Big Brother, where there was like 3 housemates left, was interminable. So I'm a fan of that. I also like the fact that they've changed the time of year from it being the summer. I generally had more time to get stuck into Big Brother in the summer, whereas now it's busier. But I don't know, it just worked for me this year. I was into it. The hosts, I kind of agree with you. For me, they were at their most interesting on Friday, particularly AJ, who had no time for Chanel, loved the kind of dead-eyed look she was giving her throughout the entire interview. But again, I'm just like, look, you're overthinking this. Davina's still around. She's still the exact same. She hasn't aged out of TV or anything like that. And again, I don't like some of the patronizing, be kind interviews they have. I feel like there's a way to hold people accountable without actually just sending a mob after them. Like, again, I know ITV has to be more careful, but I think, like, be careful in your vetting process. Be careful in your aftercare process. If someone's coming out to the house full of booze and you're telling them, oh, they love you, that's just shit TV. The cast, I thought, was the big win. They got this right. They managed to get interesting characters without being fame seekers as well. They're not all kind of playing up to the cameras and doing the usual stuff that's there. So again, like, a big win for me. I've loved this. I'm fully back in the Big Brother mode. Hence us having this conversation, and I can't wait for more, including the celebrity one in January. But last but not least, we need to get to a Friday, the final. I'm not going to watch it live. I'm devastated because I have to go to something on that night. And you're the same, I know. So, but yeah, it is the final. Who do you want to see in the final? Who do you want to win? And who do you think will actually win as well? Because we've seen in Big Brother's past, they're 2 very different questions. Sometimes you can get some real wild cards.
I think who I think will win and who I want to win are kind of intertwined now as well. It wasn't this until maybe last week or the last couple of days. I'm all aboard the Jordan train. I think he has it wrapped up. I think that Yin run is going to be a close second, but it was the same situation that I mentioned a few weeks ago, where there was the kind of, not infantilization of her, but the wailing has annoyed a lot of people on social media, at least. And there is still that where it's like there is something that you could take away from her. Now, it's that you can take away from Jordan. It's the repeated conversations every night that we seem to have with Maddie and Henry, and it's the same thing every day. But that could just be the producers putting that in every night, because I'm sure, again, we only see 45 minutes. They definitely have something more interesting than that, but it's a storyline that they're building. So you know what? Fine, I'm all right with that. Dark horse for me to actually win it is Olivia. Ooh. Because we've seen in week 1, we had this whole kind of, oh geez, right, she's on telly now and it's just Hallie and it's really loud and annoying. But we actually saw in bits and pieces when she wasn't in with the likes of Paul and Tom, and when she wasn't in with Hallie and Kerry, when she was on her own with the other housemates, she's crack central. She actually seems relatively sound. So I reckon if she gets to probably third, I reckon. But I think they're the top 3. Jordan, I'm all about you called it from the very start. The posh-centric characters on Big Brother are the best by a distance.
They are.
Henry won't win it because of the whole situation we talked about before with, here's the Tory. And I'm just like Tom, I think it'll probably go next to Victor, Tom, and Jenkin. Jenkin, I have such high hopes for, and my God, he's been a letdown. Again, I don't know if it's everything he thought it was going to be. He just seems a bit miserable in there. So I'm going to say him and Tom are out next. Henry will probably go after that. And then probably I'm going to go top 3. Who's left? Matty will go. And yeah, I don't see Matty being top 3. So yeah, Jordan to win, Yinran second, and Olivia third.
Okay, Jordan was second in my initial Big Brother Power rankings, and that was like after the initial opening night. I've loved him all the way. I'm going to be honest here. He's kind of pissing me off a little bit. He's still a great communicator and he's very funny. Like some of his observations, like even last night's episode where it was like, have you learned much in the house? No. Is there any like improvements that you've made or observations? No, I'm the exact same person. Like, he's very funny. He's a great nominator because he's a great communicator. He is devastatingly specific in his nominations. He's a great housemate. Don't get me wrong. but he's been a bit of a wagon. How he's treated Henry, I'm not a fan of. He is kind of narcissistic. There's a lot going on there where I don't know. I've cooled on him a little bit, but I'm delighted he's also in the final week because he is a central character in there. Wouldn't be surprised to see him win. I honestly wouldn't. But I don't think he's going to. My final three would be Yinrun, Maddie, and Henry. I'm not saying they're the people I want. If I'm going for people I want, I'd probably throw Jordan in there instead of Maddie. But I think Yinrun's winning this, with Maddie being like the odd choice where everyone's like, I never really saw that coming, but yeah, we all kind of think he sounds like so fine. I think Maddie's going to be in the final. Henry, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna, because I think we knew he was a Tory from the get-go. This isn't news. I know he's probably reminding, but I don't see Big Brother having like more opportunities for him to spike the public opinion with like talking about Boris Johnson and everything. Like I don't think that's going to come up. I think that was just happened last week. I think he's going to be fine. And I think he's a much more sympathetic and likable character and just fun and warm compared to Jordan. So I think that he's going to have a lot of fans. Olivia, I could totally see being in there. Someone called out a great big, we talked about the eccentric posh person being a Big Brother archetype. Another one that I saw, and this isn't my words, but I did see it on Twitter and it's amazing, where tart with a heart. And Olivia falls into that kind of trope where I'm like, but again, I didn't say it, but it is no, you can't say it, Kento. Kento, it's my show. All right. I'm the editor here. I'm not going to sack myself. It's all right. But Kento's there like saying, oh, don't say that. Who am I going to get in trouble with? It's literally my show.
The Scots are going to come after you, pal.
I'm saying she's gonna get in the final. Like I'm saying, but that's the thing. She is like she falls into that kind of archetype of that. Again, Kento, we're in 2023. Like we're in a progressive society. Come on, catch up. But like, I think Olivia could be in there. Wouldn't surprise me if she was thereabouts. But yeah, I'm going to go Yinrun still to win. I think just she's overwhelming. I think as well, the fact that she doesn't have her living counselor Trish there with her, I think is going to be interesting for the last week. I think it's going to make her stand on her own 2 feet. It's going to give her a narrative and something to kind of get over to like remind the public why they still fall in love with her. So yeah, I'm going Yinrun. But Maddie is in there with an outside chance. I would love Yinrun to win though. She has captured my heart since she entered the house when they were playing musical statues and immediately just said, I'm gonna hide. I'm just gonna hide. Amazing, because I'm like, that's probably what I'd want to do as well. But Kento, it's been a pleasure. Look, we'll be chatting as well. Follow Kento CCFC on Twitter to get his thoughts as the final weeks take place. By the Irish Examiner as well, you get Kento's opinions and the opinions of the many talented writers they have there as well. Always breaking amazing news as well. So yeah, well worth your while. Kento, thanks for joining us on page 180 to discuss. We'll be back shortly. I think we've got a couple of shared interests in the pipeline too, so I'm sure I'll be chatting to you in the not too distant future. Anyway, guys,